Welcome back to AI Draws the World, where every line tells a story. Today, our pen plotter will slowly bring Nashville, Tennessee to life. As the pen moves across the page, the city will appear one line at a time. Tall buildings, bright signs, a winding river, bridges stretching across the water, old theaters filled with memories, and, of course, the shape of a guitar. Because in Nashville, music is almost everywhere. It escapes through open doors. It travels down crowded sidewalks. It fills theaters. It hides inside small restaurants. Sometimes it is played for thousands of people. Sometimes it is played for 10. And sometimes a song waits quietly for years before anyone hears it at all. Today's story is about a 12-year-old girl named Ellie, her grandfather, Henry, an old guitar case, and a song that was started 35 years ago but never finished. This is not a story about becoming famous. It is not about selling millions of records. It is about friendship, memory, and discovering that just because the music stops does not mean the song is gone. So sit back, relax, listen to the quiet movement of the pen across the paper, and watch as Nashville slowly comes to life. Our story begins before sunrise, when the stages are empty and the city is waiting for its Chapter 1. Before the music begins, at 5:15 in the morning, Broadway was almost quiet. Almost. A delivery truck stopped beside a restaurant. A man rolled a wooden barrel across a sidewalk. Someone swept the entrance of a small music store. Farther down the street, a neon guitar still glowed above a doorway, even though the building beneath it was closed. The signs were bright. The sidewalks were mostly empty. And for a few quiet minutes, Nashville seemed to be listening to itself. Inside a small hotel room, 12-year-old Ellie Carter sat beside the window. She had been awake for 23 minutes. She knew because she had checked the clock 4 times. 5:16, 5:21, 5:28, 5:35. Her grandfather, Henry, was still asleep. At least, Ellie thought he was. Then Henry spoke. "If you stare at the clock long enough, it will not move faster." Ellie turned. "I thought you were sleeping." "I was trying. I'm excited." "I noticed." Ellie looked through the window again. Even from several blocks away, she could see part of the Nashville skyline. "Can we go now?" Henry opened one eye. "It's 5:37 in the morning. So the city will still be there at 6. You don't know that." Henry opened his other eye. "I am fairly confident." Ellie smiled. Beside Henry's bed stood an old brown guitar case. The leather was scratched. One metal latch had been replaced. A faded blue sticker clung to one corner. Ellie had seen the case hundreds of times. It normally rested in the back of Henry's closet. But yesterday, when Henry packed for Nashville, he had carried it to the car. Ellie looked at it. "Are you going to play it?" Henry sat up. "No." "Then why did you bring it?" Henry looked toward the case. For several seconds he said nothing. "I don't know." Ellie frowned. "You drove 10 hours with a guitar you don't plan to play." "Apparently. That's strange. Most interesting things are." Ellie stood. "When did you last play?" Henry reached for his glasses. "A long time ago." "How long?" Henry placed the glasses on his face. 35 years. Ellie stared at him. 35 years? Approximately. Why? Henry stood and walked toward the bathroom. "Breakfast first." "That's not an answer." "No. Grandpa." Henry closed the bathroom door. "Breakfast first." Ellie looked at the guitar case. 35 years. She tried to imagine not doing something for 35 years. She was only 12. 35 years sounded longer than forever. Ellie knelt beside the case. She did not touch it. She simply looked. The faded blue sticker had 3 letters, H and S. Ellie whispered them. H and S. From behind the bathroom door, Henry called, "Don't miss sunrise." Ellie hurried back to the window. The sky above Nashville was changing. Dark blue became purple. Purple became orange. And somewhere below, a door opened. A man stepped onto a sidewalk carrying a guitar. He sat on a chair. He adjusted the strings. And before the sun had completely risen over Nashville, the city heard its first song of the day. Chapter 2. The Man on the Empty Sidewalk. By 6:15, Ellie and Henry were outside. Henry carried the old guitar case. Ellie noticed. "I thought you weren't playing." "I'm not." "Then why are you carrying it?" Henry continued walking. "I don't know." "You say that a lot." "Only when I don't know." Ellie walked beside him. Broadway looked different in the morning. The bright signs still glowed, but there were no large crowds. No lines outside restaurants. No groups of visitors taking photographs in the middle of the sidewalk. Instead, workers prepared the city for another day. Doors opened. Floors were swept. Boxes were delivered. Tables were cleaned. A man sat alone on a folding chair. He held an acoustic guitar. His name was Walter Brooks. Walter was 71 years old. His guitar was almost as worn as Henry's case. Walter played slowly. There was no microphone, no stage, no audience. Ellie stopped. Henry stopped beside her. Walter continued playing. When the song ended, Ellie clapped. Walter looked up. "Well, I guess I have an audience." "Why are you playing so early?" Ellie asked. Walter smiled. "Best time." "Why?" "Nobody asks me to play anything." Ellie laughed. Walter noticed Henry's guitar case. "You play." Henry shook his head. "Not anymore." Walter studied him. "That's a long case to carry for somebody who doesn't play." Ellie pointed at Walter. "That's what I said." Henry sighed. "I am beginning to regret bringing both the guitar and my granddaughter." Walter laughed. Ellie sat on the edge of the sidewalk. "Are you famous?" "No." "Do you want to be?" Walter thought. "When I was 20, yes." "What happened?" "I turned 21. Ellie frowned. Walter smiled. "Then 22. Then 30. Then 40. You gave up?" "No." Walter looked at his guitar. "I changed the reason I played." Henry listened carefully. Walter continued. "When I was young, I played because I wanted everybody to hear me." He touched the strings. "Now I play because I want to hear the song." Ellie looked toward the empty sidewalk. "But nobody's listening." Walter smiled. "You are." Ellie opened the small notebook she carried in her backpack. She had started carrying notebooks after her mother told her writers should always have somewhere to put a thought before it escaped. She wrote, "One person listening is not the same as nobody listening." Walter leaned forward. "What did you write?" Ellie showed him. Walter smiled. "That's better than most songs I wrote at 12. "You wrote songs?" "Terrible ones." Henry laughed quietly. Walter looked at Henry again. "You ever write?" Henry's smile disappeared. "A long time ago." Walter nodded. He did not ask another question. Instead, he played a simple melody. Henry looked toward the street. Ellie watched her grandfather. For a moment, Henry's fingers moved against the handle of the guitar case, almost as if they remembered where strings should be. Then they Chapter 3. The Guitar Case. After breakfast, Ellie and Henry sat on a bench near the river. The Cumberland moved quietly beneath the morning sky. A bridge stretched across the water. Cars crossed. A boat moved slowly downstream. Ellie ate the final bite of a biscuit. Henry drank coffee. The guitar case rested between them. Ellie stared at it. Henry noticed. "What?" "H and S." Henry looked down. "The sticker. What does the S mean?" Henry took a slow drink of coffee. "Samuel." "Who's Samuel?" Henry looked toward the river. "My best friend." Was. Ellie waited. Henry had a way of making silence feel like part of a conversation. "Did he play guitar?" "Yes." Were you in a band? Henry smiled. We thought we were. What was the band called? Henry laughed. You are not going to let this go. No. Henry looked at the faded sticker. H&S. Henry and Samuel? Yes, that was your band name. For approximately 3 days. What happened after 3 days? We realized it was a terrible band name. Ellie laughed. What did you change it to? The River County Boys. That's not much better. We were 19. That's your excuse. It's the only one I have. Henry rested one hand on the guitar case. Samuel and I grew up 2 streets apart. We learned guitar together. We played school events, church picnics, birthday parties. Anywhere someone would let us stand in a corner and make noise. Were you good? Henry smiled. Samuel was. And you? I knew 4 chords. Only 4. Eventually 6. Ellie laughed. Henry continued. When we were 22, we came to Nashville. Ellie's eyes widened. To become famous? We would have said no. Henry smiled. But yes. What happened? Henry looked across the river. Life. Ellie waited. That's a very short answer. It's a very long story. We have all day. Henry looked at her, then at the city, then at the guitar case. Yes. He nodded slowly. I suppose we do. Before Henry could continue, music drifted across the riverfront. A young woman stood beneath a tree. She held a violin. Ellie stood. Come on. Where? Music. Henry smiled. In Nashville, that answer could take us anywhere. Ellie started walking. Henry lifted the guitar case. He followed. Chapter 4. A song with no words. The violinist's name was Claire. She was 24. Her case rested open on the sidewalk. Inside were several dollar bills, a bottle of water, and a handwritten sign. Saving for music school. Claire played without sheet music. Ellie listened. When the song ended, she asked, What was that called? Claire smiled. It doesn't have a name. Who wrote it? I did. Where are the words? There aren't any. Ellie looked confused. How do people know what it's about? Claire adjusted her bow. They decide. Ellie looked at Henry. What's it about? Henry thought. Leaving home. Claire smiled. Interesting. Ellie looked at Claire. What is it really about? Finding home. Henry laughed. I was close. Claire shook her head. Maybe you were right too. Ellie frowned. How can a song be about 2 different things? Claire held up her violin. Music doesn't always tell people what to feel. Sometimes it gives them somewhere to put what they're already feeling. Henry looked away. Ellie noticed. Claire began playing again. The melody rose above the river. Henry closed his eyes. Suddenly he was 22. Samuel sat beside him in an old car. A guitar case was wedged between 2 duffel bags. The windows were down. The radio barely worked. Samuel was singing too loudly. Henry was telling him to stop. Samuel sang louder. Nashville appeared on a road sign. 35 years disappeared. Then Claire's song ended. Henry opened his eyes. Ellie was watching him. What? You went somewhere. No, you did. Henry picked up the guitar case. Come on. Ellie followed. She opened her notebook. She wrote, Sometimes a song gives you somewhere to put a memory. She did not show Henry. Not yet. Chapter 5. Broadway wakes up. By 10 o'clock, Broadway had transformed. The sidewalks filled. Music escaped through open doors. A drummer tested a microphone. A guitarist carried an amplifier. Visitors stood beneath signs taking photographs. A group of friends wore matching shirts. Ellie turned in a circle. How many songs are playing? Henry listened. At least 5. I hear 7. Show off. Ellie smiled. They walked slowly. At one doorway, a country band played a fast song. Across the street, a woman sang a slow ballad. Farther away, a guitarist played something Ellie recognized but could not name. Doesn't the music get mixed together? Ellie asked. Yes. Isn't that bad? Henry shook his head. Listen. Ellie listened. At first she heard noise. Drums. Voices. Guitars. Laughter. Then, slowly she noticed something. As they walked, one song became louder, then softer. Another took its place. Every doorway had its own sound. It's like changing radio stations without touching a radio. Henry smiled. Exactly. They stopped outside a small venue. A singer stood on a tiny stage. Only 11 people watched. The singer's name was Lucas Reed. He had moved to Nashville 6 months earlier. He finished a song. 10 people clapped. One person was looking at a phone. Lucas smiled anyway. During his break, Ellie spoke to him. Do you wish more people were here? Lucas laughed. Yes. How many? 20,000. Ellie smiled. Really? No. Lucas looked toward the stage. Maybe someday. Is it hard playing for 11 people? Sometimes. Why? Because you start thinking 11 isn't enough. Lucas took a drink of water. Then I remind myself there was a time when I would have been thrilled if 11 people listened. Henry nodded. Lucas noticed the guitar case. You play. Henry shook his head. Ellie answered. He used to. Henry looked at her. 35 years ago. Lucas raised an eyebrow. That's a long break. That's what I said. Lucas smiled. My longest break was 2 weeks. What happened? I got scared. Ellie looked surprised. Of playing. Of failing. What did you do? I failed. Ellie waited. Lucas smiled. Then I played again. Henry looked at him. Lucas continued. The funny thing about failing is that after it happens, you realize you're still here. Henry said nothing. Lucas returned to the stage. 11 people waited. He adjusted the microphone. Then he played as if 20,000 were listening. Chapter 6. The Ryman. Near midday, Henry and Ellie stood outside the Ryman Auditorium. Ellie looked at the building. This is it. Henry smiled. What were you expecting? Something bigger. Famous doesn't always mean big. They entered. Inside, the wooden pews faced the stage. The room was quiet. Ellie walked slowly. Henry stopped. 35 years earlier, he and Samuel had stood in almost the same place. They had been young, broke, and completely certain they would someday stand on that stage. Samuel had pointed. One day. Henry had laughed. You can't even tune your guitar. I'll learn before then. You've had 9 years. Then I'm due. Henry smiled at the memory. Ellie looked at him. You've been here before. Henry nodded. With Samuel. Yes. Did you play here? No. Did he? No. Ellie sat beside him. Is that why you stopped? Henry shook his head. No. Then why? Henry looked toward the stage. Samuel and I wrote songs. Good songs. We thought so. That's not what I asked. Henry smiled. Some were terrible. Most. Probably. Ellie laughed. But one was different. Henry's smile faded. We started writing it here in Nashville. What was it called? The Road Still Knows My Name. That's a good title. Samuel came up with it. Did you record it? No. Why? We never finished it. Ellie waited. Why not? Henry looked at the stage. Because Samuel died. The room suddenly felt quieter. Ellie lowered her voice. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. That doesn't mean you're not sorry. Henry looked at her. No. He nodded. It doesn't. What happened? Car accident. Ellie looked down. Henry continued. We had returned home. We were supposed to meet on a Saturday. We were going to finish the song. Samuel never arrived. Ellie did not know what to say, so she did not say anything. After a while, Henry spoke. I put my guitar in the case. And you never played again? No. For 35 years? Yes. Ellie looked at the guitar case. Because of Samuel? Henry considered the question. At first. And after that? Henry looked toward the stage. I think I forgot how to begin again. Ellie opened her notebook. She wrote something. Henry tried to look. Ellie closed it. Not yet. They sat together. An empty stage in front of them, an old guitar between them, and 35 years of silence, waiting to be understood. Chapter 7. The Songwriter at Table 9. They ate lunch at a small restaurant several blocks away. A woman sat alone at Table 9. Napkins covered the table. Words were written across them. Some were crossed out. Others were circled. Ellie watched. The woman wrote 3 words. She stared, then crossed them out. She wrote 2 more. Crossed them out. Ellie whispered, "What is she doing?" Henry smiled. "Writing. She doesn't look very good at it." The woman looked up. "I heard that." Ellie's eyes widened. "I'm sorry." The woman laughed. "I'm Rebecca." Ellie. Rebecca held up a napkin. "And you're correct. You're not good. I'm stuck." Rebecca was a songwriter. She had written songs for herself and other musicians. Ellie looked at the pile of napkins. "How long have you been stuck?" "Today." Rebecca checked her watch. 47 minutes. "What about the song?" 3 months. Ellie looked shocked. "Why don't you write a different song?" Rebecca smiled. "I have." "Then why keep coming back to this one?" Rebecca looked at the napkin. "Because I know there's something here." Henry looked toward the window. Rebecca noticed his guitar case. "You write." "Not anymore." Ellie sighed. 35 years. Henry looked at her. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. 35. He has an unfinished song. Ellie. What? Rebecca leaned forward. How unfinished? Henry answered. 1 line. Rebecca stared. You're telling me you stopped writing for 35 years because of 1 line? No. Henry's voice was calm. I stopped because the person I was writing it with died. Rebecca's expression changed. I'm sorry. Henry nodded. Rebecca looked at the napkins, then back at Henry. My father was a songwriter. He taught me. He died 6 years ago. Henry listened. For almost a year I couldn't write. What changed? Ellie asked. Rebecca smiled sadly. I realized I was treating silence like a memorial. Henry looked at her. Rebecca continued. I thought if I wrote without him, I was leaving him behind. She folded one of the napkins. Then one day I realized everything he taught me was already inside every song I wrote. Henry said nothing. Rebecca looked at the guitar case. Finishing the song doesn't mean the friendship ended. It means the song didn't. Ellie opened her notebook. This time, Henry saw what she wrote. Silence is not the only way to remember someone. Henry read the sentence twice. Rebecca returned to her napkins. Ellie finished her lunch. Henry barely touched his. Chapter 8. The Parthenon and the Echo. That afternoon, Ellie and Henry visited the Parthenon. Ellie stood outside. We're still in Nashville. Henry laughed. Yes, it looks like we accidentally went to Greece. Very efficient vacation. They walked around the building. Ellie admired the columns. Henry carried the guitar case. Why are you still carrying it? Ellie asked. Henry looked down. I don't know. Ellie smiled. Still strange. Still true. Inside, their footsteps echoed. Ellie clapped once. The sound returned. She clapped again. Stop. Why? Because other people exist. Ellie lowered her hands. then whispered, "Echo." A faint sound returned. Henry smiled. Ellie looked at him. "Do songs echo?" "Sometimes." "For 35 years?" Henry knew what she meant. Apparently. They sat outside near the park. A group of teenagers played music beneath a tree. One held a guitar. Another tapped a rhythm on a wooden box. A girl sang. They missed notes. They stopped. They laughed. Then they started again. Henry watched. "You and Samuel?" Ellie asked. "Very much." "Which one were you?" "The one missing notes." Ellie laughed. Henry smiled. "Samuel never cared when we made mistakes. He said mistakes were proof the song was alive." "Did you believe him?" "No. Do you now?" Henry watched the teenagers restart the song for the 4th time. Maybe. One of the teenagers broke a guitar string. The group groaned. Henry looked at his case. Ellie noticed. Henry opened one latch. Click. Then the second. Click. His hand stopped. Ellie held her breath. Henry closed the latches. Click. Click. He stood. "Come on." Ellie sighed. "So close." Henry looked at her. "To what?" "You know." "No. Grandpa." Henry started walking. Ellie followed. Behind them, the teenagers replaced the string. Then they began again. Chapter 9. The Bridge. Evening approached. Henry and Ellie walked toward the Cumberland River. The city skyline rose behind them. The Batman building stood among the towers. Bridges crossed the water. The sky slowly turned orange. Ellie leaned against a railing. Henry placed the guitar case beside him. "Samuel loved rivers," Henry said. Ellie looked at him. He said rivers were songs. "How?" "I asked the same thing." Henry smiled. He said they keep moving even when nobody is listening. Ellie looked at the Cumberland. "That sounds like Walter." "Who?" "The man this morning." Henry remembered. "Play it because you want to hear the song. Maybe musicians steal ideas from rivers." Ellie smiled. Henry reached into his coat pocket. He removed an old photograph. 2 young men stood beside the Cumberland River. Both held guitars. One was Henry. The other was Samuel. Ellie studied the picture. Samuel was taller. He had dark hair, a wide smile. Henry looked serious. "You look unhappy." "I thought serious musicians were supposed to look serious." "You look constipated." Henry stared at her. Ellie laughed. Henry tried not to. Then he laughed too. He pointed at Samuel. He never stopped smiling. "Was he better than you?" "At guitar?" "Yes." "Absolutely." "Singing?" "Yes." "Writing?" Henry thought. "We were better together." Ellie looked at the river. What was the missing line? Henry did not answer. "Grandpa?" "I don't remember." Ellie turned. "You stopped playing for 35 years because of a song, and you don't remember the missing line?" "I remember the song." "But not the line." Henry looked at the guitar case. "The paper is inside." Ellie's eyes widened. "You have the song?" Henry nodded. "In the guitar case?" "Yes." "Right now?" "Yes." Ellie stared. "Open it." "No." "Grandpa." "No. You carried an unfinished song around Nashville all day and won't open the case." Henry looked toward the river. Ellie crossed her arms. "That is the strangest thing you have done today." "I appreciate the ranking." Ellie sat beside the case. "I'll wait." "For what?" "You." Henry sighed. The sun lowered. The river moved. Ellie waited. Henry waited. The guitar case remained closed. Chapter 10. The Man Who Fixed Guitars. They found the guitar shop by accident. At least, Ellie thought it was an accident. Henry had stopped walking when he saw the sign. Martin's Guitar Repair. Established 1968. Ellie looked at Henry. "Need something repaired?" "No." "Then why did you stop?" Henry looked through the window. An older man sat behind a workbench. A guitar rested beneath a bright lamp. The man adjusted something carefully. "Grandpa." Henry opened the door. A bell rang. The man behind the bench looked up. Evening. His name was Martin Hayes. He was 80. His hands moved slowly but confidently. Martin noticed Henry's case. "What have you got?" "Old guitar. Most good ones are." Henry placed the case on the counter. Ellie's eyes widened. Martin opened the first latch. Click. Henry did not stop him. Second latch. Click. Third latch. Click. Martin lifted the lid. For the first time in Ellie's life, she saw the guitar. The wood was dark. The edges were worn. One string was missing. Dust rested near the bridge. Ellie whispered, "Wow." Martin lifted the guitar carefully. "How long?" Henry knew exactly what he meant. 35 years. Martin looked at him. "That's a long time between songs." He examined the instrument. "Needs work. Can it be fixed?" Ellie asked. Martin smiled. "Most guitars can." Henry looked at the worn wood. Martin pointed toward a crack. "This needs attention." He touched the strings. "These need replacing." He turned one tuning peg. "This is stiff." Ellie looked worried. "Is it ruined?" Martin shook his head. "Neglected isn't the same as ruined." Henry looked at him. Martin continued examining the guitar. "People confuse those two all the time." Ellie opened her notebook. "Neglected isn't the same as ruined." Henry saw the sentence. Martin smiled. "Smart kid." "She has her moments." Ellie frowned. Martin placed the guitar on the workbench. "I can have it ready tomorrow." Henry immediately said, "No." Ellie looked at him. Martin waited. Henry looked at the guitar. 35 years. He had protected himself from one unfinished song. At least, that was what he told himself. But Rebecca's words returned. "I was treating silence like a memorial." Henry looked at Ellie. Then Martin. "How long tonight?" Martin smiled. "Depends how patient you are." Henry pulled out a chair. "For the first time in 35 years, I have nowhere else to be." Martin turned on another lamp. "Then let's see if this old guitar remembers what it was built to do." Chapter 11. 6 strings. Martin worked. Ellie watched every movement. Old strings came off. The guitar was cleaned. The crack was examined. A small repair was made. Henry sat quietly. Martin spoke while he worked. "People think guitars make music." Ellie looked at him. "They don't." "No." He held up the instrument. "This is wood. Metal. Glue. Strings. A guitar makes sound. The person makes music." Henry smiled. Martin replaced the strings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He tuned them slowly. The first note filled the shop. Henry looked down. The second note, then the third. 35 years of silence seemed to become heavier with every sound. Martin finished. He handed the guitar to Henry. Henry did not take it. Martin waited. Ellie waited. Henry stared. "I don't know if I remember." Martin smiled. "Your hands might." Henry slowly reached forward. He took the guitar. It felt lighter than he remembered, and heavier. He sat. His left hand touched the neck. His fingers found the strings. He formed a chord. Wrong. He tried again. A simple G chord. Martin nodded. Henry strummed. The sound was uneven. Ellie smiled. Henry played another chord. Then another. 4 chords. The same 4 he had known when he was young. His fingers moved slowly, painfully, but they moved. Henry closed his eyes. Samuel sat beside him. Again. Henry played. Too slow. Henry tried again. Too fast. Again. That was terrible. Henry laughed. "You're terrible." Samuel smiled. "Then we're a band." Henry opened his eyes. The repair shop returned. Ellie was crying. Henry stopped. "Why are you crying?" "I'm not." "You are. Be quiet and keep playing." Martin turned away. He pretended to organize tools. Henry strummed again. Then he stopped. There's something in the case. Ellie knew. The song. Chapter 12. The folded paper. The paper was hidden beneath the old lining. Henry removed it carefully. Yellowed. Folded 4 times. Samuel's handwriting covered half the page. Henry's handwriting covered the rest. At the top, "The road still knows my name." Ellie sat beside Henry. "Read it." Henry unfolded the paper. He read the first verse. It was about leaving a small town. A road stretching west. 2 young friends. A guitar in the back seat. The chorus was about traveling far enough to become someone new, only to discover home still remembered who you had been. Ellie smiled. "It's good." Henry laughed. "You don't have to say that." "I'm not." Martin continued, pretending not to listen. Henry read the second verse. It was about Nashville. Bright signs, river water, songs behind every door. Then he reached the final verse. The first 3 lines were complete. The 4th line was blank. Ellie looked at the empty space. 1 line. Henry nodded. "What was it supposed to say?" "We didn't know." "Did you try?" "For weeks." "What did Samuel want?" Henry smiled. "Something hopeful." "What did you want?" "Something serious." "Constipated musician." Martin laughed from across the room. Henry looked at Ellie. "That joke has gone far enough." Ellie smiled. She read the final verse again. "Can I try?" Henry almost said no. Then he remembered Mrs. Rebecca's words. "Finishing the song doesn't mean the friendship ended. It means the song didn't." Henry handed Ellie the paper. She read. Again. Again. Then she looked at him. "I need to see the river." Martin smiled. "Songwriters." Henry placed the guitar in its case. This time, the case did not feel like a coffin. It felt like a guitar case. Exactly what it had always been. Chapter 13. 1 missing line. Night had arrived in Nashville. Broadway glowed. The skyline reflected in the Cumberland River. Music filled the streets. Ellie and Henry sat near the water. The unfinished song rested between them. Ellie read the final verse. The first verse is leaving. Henry nodded. The second is finding Nashville. Yes. The chorus is about home remembering you. Yes. So what's the last verse? Henry looked at the river. Samuel and I never agreed. What did he think? He said it should be about returning. And you? I thought it should be about continuing. Ellie frowned. Those sound like the same thing. Henry looked at her. No. Yes. Returning means going back. Continuing means moving forward. Ellie shook her head. What if you do both? Henry stared at her. Ellie pointed toward the city. You came back to Nashville. Yes. But you're not 22 again. No. You came back. She pointed toward the guitar. And you're moving forward. Henry looked at the paper. The road still knows my name. He whispered the title. Ellie picked up her pencil. What was the line before the missing one? Henry read it. And every mile that carried me away. Ellie waited. Henry looked toward the river. Broadway lights reflected across the water. A boat moved downstream. Somewhere behind them, a guitarist began a song. Henry whispered, "Still left a road to bring me home someday." Ellie froze. Henry looked at her. What? Say it again. Henry repeated it. Still left a road to bring me home someday. Ellie smiled. That's it. Henry looked at the paper. No, it is. It's too simple. Grandpa. What? Samuel wanted hopeful. Henry looked at the blank line. Ellie handed him the pencil. Henry's hand shook. For 35 years, the line had been empty. Henry placed the pencil against the paper. He wrote slowly. Still left a road to bring me home someday. The line was complete. Henry stared at it. Ellie whispered, You finished it. Henry shook his head. We finished it. He looked toward the river, then upward. All three of us. Chapter 14. The first song in 35 years. Henry opened the guitar case. Broadway music drifted through the night. People walked past. Most did not notice him. Henry lifted the guitar. He sat on a bench. Ellie sat beside him. Ready, she asked. No. Good. Henry smiled. His fingers formed the first chord. G. Then C. Then D. 4 chords. Eventually 6. Henry remembered. He played the introduction. Slowly. His fingers hurt. 1 chord buzzed. He stopped. Ellie waited. Henry started again. The first verse. His voice was quiet, rough, uncertain. A couple walking nearby slowed. Henry continued. The second verse. A man stopped. Then a woman. Walter, the guitarist from that morning, happened to be walking along the riverfront. He heard the song. He stopped. Henry reached the chorus. His voice became stronger. Ellie smiled. More people listened. 11. Perhaps 12. Henry thought of Lucas. There was a time when I would have been thrilled if 11 people listened. Henry reached the final verse. His hands shook. Then the final line. The new line. The line that had waited 35 years. Still left a road to bring me home someday. Henry strummed the final chord. Silence. Then applause. Not thousands. Not 20,000. 14 people. Walter clapped. Ellie clapped, louder than everyone. Henry looked toward the river. Tears filled his eyes. Ellie hugged him. You played. Henry nodded. I played. How do you feel? Henry laughed. Everyone keeps asking me that today. Well. Henry looked at the guitar, like I was gone for a long time. And he looked at Ellie, like the road. Chapter 15. Walter's second song. Walter approached. 35 years. Henry smiled. 35. Walter shook his head. You're rusty. Ellie gasped. Henry laughed. I know. Walter pointed at the guitar. Again tomorrow. Henry looked surprised. What? You played today. Play again tomorrow. It's not that simple. Walter shrugged. Sounds simple. Henry smiled. Walter sat beside him. You know what happens when you stop for 35 years. What? You get 35 years of excuses. Henry laughed. Walter continued. You don't need to become who you were. That man is gone. Henry looked at him. Walter pointed toward Ellie. Good thing. You've got people now he never knew. Henry looked at his granddaughter. Walter picked up his own guitar. Know anything in G? Henry smiled. 4 chords. Eventually 6. Henry stared. How did you know? Lucky guess. Walter began playing. Henry joined. The 2 guitars were not perfectly tuned to each other. Henry missed a chord. Walter kept going. Henry found the song again. Ellie opened her notebook. She wrote, A mistake does not end the song if you keep playing. A small crowd formed. Someone recorded a video. Someone else dropped money into Walter's case. A child danced. Henry laughed in the middle of the song. For the first time in 35 years, he made a mistake on a guitar. And nothing terrible happened. The song continued. Samuel had been right. Mistakes were proof the song was alive. Chapter 16. The City of Open Doors. The next morning, Henry woke before Ellie. He sat beside the hotel window. The guitar rested across his lap. He played quietly. G, C, D. Again. His fingers hurt. He smiled. Ellie opened her eyes. She listened. Henry did not notice. She was awake. He played the chorus of The Road Still Knows My Name. Ellie closed her eyes again. She wanted him to think he was playing alone, because sometimes people needed to know they would still do something when nobody was watching. Responsibility. Ellie smiled. Wrong city. Different story. But maybe lessons traveled too. After breakfast, they returned to Broadway. Lucas was performing. This time, 23 people watched. He recognized Ellie. 23, she shouted. Lucas laughed. Almost 20,000. Henry carried his guitar. Not the case. The guitar. Lucas noticed. You play. Henry smiled. Apparently. Want to sit in? Henry immediately shook his head. No. Ellie looked at him. Walter's words returned. Again tomorrow. Henry looked at the stage. 23 people. Lucas waited. Henry stepped forward. One song. Lucas smiled. That's how it starts. Henry joined him. They played The Road, Still Knows My Name. Henry explained none of the story. He simply played. 23 people listened. Then 27. Then 31. When the song ended, Lucas looked at Henry. Original. Henry nodded. That's a good song. Henry looked toward Ellie. Had good writers. Ellie smiled. Nashville had thousands of doors. Behind some were restaurants. Behind others were stages, studios, shops, homes. But Henry realized something. The most important door he had opened in Nashville was an old brown guitar case. Chapter 17. The song Samuel never heard. That afternoon, Henry returned to the Ryman. Ellie sat beside him. The guitar rested across his lap. The stage was empty. Henry looked toward it. I wish Samuel could hear the song. Ellie thought, maybe he already heard most of it. Henry looked at her. He wrote half. More than half. Ellie smiled. And you spent 35 years thinking about the last line. That doesn't count as writing. Why not? Henry considered it. Ellie continued. Maybe the song took 35 years because that's how long the last line needed. Henry laughed. Songwriters would hate you. Why? They have deadlines. Ellie smiled. Henry looked toward the stage. When Samuel died, everyone told me to remember the good times. Did that help? No. Why? Because I didn't want good memories. Henry's voice softened. I wanted my friend. Ellie listened. People meant well. But sometimes when you're hurting, advice sounds like noise. What helped? Henry looked at the guitar. Time. 35 years. Apparently I'm slow. Ellie smiled. Henry continued. And you? Me? You ask questions. A lot. Too many. Ellie laughed. Henry looked at her. But you asked the question I stopped asking. Which one? Why? Ellie was quiet. Henry touched the strings. I told myself I stopped playing because Samuel died. Maybe that was true for a while. But eventually I think I stopped because I was afraid. Of what? Playing without him. Finishing the song. Finding out that moving forward felt good. Ellie looked at her grandfather. Would Samuel be mad? Henry smiled. No. What would he say? Henry did not hesitate. He'd say I was an idiot. Ellie laughed loudly. The sound echoed through the Ryman. Henry laughed too. For 35 years, he had remembered Samuel's death. Today, he remembered Samuel's laugh. That felt different, better, more honest. Henry played the song quietly. The empty stage listened. Chapter 18. The Note on the Wall. Before leaving Nashville, Ellie asked to return to one place, the songwriter's restaurant. Rebecca was not there. Table 9 was empty. Ellie asked the restaurant manager for a napkin. She wrote, "Silence is not the only way to remember someone." Beneath it, she added, "The song is finished." She signed, Ellie and Henry. The manager promised to give it to Rebecca. Henry smiled. Anything else? Ellie thought. Martin. They visited the guitar repair shop. Martin sat behind his workbench. Henry entered carrying the guitar. Martin looked concerned. Broken already? No. Good. Henry placed a small photograph on the counter. It showed Henry and Samuel beside the Cumberland River. Martin studied it. My friend, Henry explained. Martin nodded. The other half of the song? Yes. Henry handed Martin a copy of the lyrics. Martin read the final line. Still left a road to bring me home someday. He nodded. Good line. My granddaughter helped. Ellie smiled. Martin looked at Henry. 35 years. Henry nodded. Martin tapped the guitar. Don't make it wait another 35. I won't. They returned to the river. Walter was not there. His folding chair was empty. Ellie looked disappointed. Then she saw something on the chair. A note. Henry. Again tomorrow. Walter. Henry laughed. Ellie folded the note. He's bossy. I like him. So do I. Henry sat in Walter's chair. He lifted the guitar. One song. Ellie smiled. One song. Henry began. Chapter 19. The Road Home. The next morning, Henry and Ellie left Nashville. The skyline slowly disappeared behind them. Ellie sat in the passenger seat. The guitar case rested safely in the back. But it was different now. The case no longer held silence. It held a finished song. Ellie opened her notebook. She read every sentence. One person listening is not the same as nobody listening. Sometimes a song gives you somewhere to put a memory. Silence is not the only way to remember someone. Neglected isn't the same as ruined. A mistake does not end the song if you keep playing. Henry glanced over. What are you reading? My notes. Anything good? Some. Henry smiled. Ellie looked out the window. Grandpa. Yes. Are you going to play when we get home? Yes. Tomorrow. Yes. Next week. Probably. What about next year? Henry smiled. Ellie. What? One song at a time. She nodded. Fair. They drove. Hours passed. The highway stretched ahead. Henry turned on the radio. A country song played. He listened. Then another. At a rest stop, Henry opened the trunk. He removed the guitar. Ellie looked surprised. What are you doing? My fingers hurt. So, I need practice. Henry sat on a picnic table. He played. Cars passed. Travelers walked by. A truck driver listened for a minute. A family stopped. A woman smiled. Henry played The Road Still Knows My Name. When he finished, the truck driver clapped. Good song. Henry smiled. Thank you. Back in the car, Ellie looked at him. How many people? 5. Is that enough? Henry thought of Walter. One person listening is not the same as nobody listening. More than enough. They continued home. The road stretched ahead. And somehow, after 35 years, Henry finally understood the song he and Samuel had started. The road did remember. Not his name. Not literally. Roads could not remember. But people could. Songs could. Stories could. And sometimes, if you traveled far enough, you discovered the person waiting at the end of the road was a version of yourself you thought you had lost. Chapter 20. Years later. Years passed. Ellie grew older. Henry kept playing. His fingers became stronger. The chords became cleaner. 4 chords. Eventually 6. Then more. He never became famous. He did not try. Once a month, he played at a small coffee shop. Sometimes 20 people listened. Sometimes 6. Once only Ellie came. Henry played anyway. The Road Still Knows My Name became the final song of every performance. Henry always introduced it the same way. I started writing this song with my best friend. Then he paused. It took us 35 years to finish. People usually laughed. Henry smiled. He was faster than me. Ellie became a writer, not a songwriter, at least not at first. She wrote stories. She kept notebooks everywhere. One beside her bed, one in her car, one in her bag. She believed thoughts escaped if you did not give them somewhere to land. One afternoon, Ellie found the notebook she had carried through Nashville. The pages were old. She read the sentences. Then she found a blank page. She wrote, "A song does not disappear because the music stops." She paused, then continued, "Sometimes it is simply waiting for someone to play the next note." Years later, Henry's hands became slower. One evening, Ellie visited. The guitar rested beside his chair. "Play," she asked. Henry looked at his hands. "Not tonight." Ellie sat beside him. "Tomorrow." Henry smiled. "Bossy." "I learned from Walter." Henry laughed. Ellie picked up the guitar. She knew 4 chords, eventually 6. Henry had taught her. Ellie began playing "The Road Still Knows My Name." Her rhythm was wrong. Henry corrected her. She missed a chord. Henry smiled. "Mistakes are proof the song is alive." Ellie stopped. "Samuel." Henry nodded. Ellie began again. This time Henry sang. Quietly, the final verse arrived. "And every mile that carried me away." Ellie joined him. "Still left a road to bring me home someday." The final chord faded. Henry smiled. Again. Ellie played again. Because some songs deserve another verse. Some stories deserve another chapter. And some memories are not meant to sit silently inside an old guitar case. Chapter 21. Nashville keeps playing. Back in Nashville, the Cumberland River continued moving. Broadway opened every morning. Neon signs illuminated every night. Young musicians arrived carrying guitars. Some stayed, some left, some succeeded, some changed their definition of success. Walter continued playing early in the morning. 1 person listened, then 3, then nobody. Walter played anyway. Lucas eventually performed for 1,000 people, then 5,000. Years later, someone asked him about his first Nashville audience. He smiled. 11 people. He remembered every chair. Rebecca received Ellie's napkin. She taped it above her desk. Silence is not the only way to remember someone. The song is finished. Rebecca finally finished the song she had been writing for 3 months. Martin repaired guitars until his hands became too tired. A younger repairman took over the shop. Martin taught him one rule: neglected isn't the same as ruined. The young man repeated it to customers. He never knew where Martin first said it. Stories traveled, lessons traveled, songs traveled. Sometimes the person who started them never knew where they ended. And maybe that was all right. One evening, a young musician sat beside the Cumberland River. He felt discouraged. He had played for 4 people. 2 had been talking. 1 had been eating. Only 1 had truly listened. An older woman sat nearby. She heard him complain. "1 person listening is not the same as nobody listening," she said. The musician looked at her. "Who said that?" The woman shrugged. "I don't remember." The musician thought. Then he lifted his guitar. He played another song. 1 person listened. And the music continued. Chapter 22. The City That Carries Songs. Nashville is often called Music City. People arrive looking for songs. But songs are strange things. You cannot always see when one begins. Perhaps a song begins with a guitar. Perhaps it begins with a sentence written on a napkin, a memory beside a river, a friend laughing in an old car, a child asking too many questions. Perhaps a song can wait. 1 year, 10 years, 35 years. Perhaps silence is not the end. Perhaps silence is only the space between notes. Henry had believed his song ended when Samuel died. For decades he protected the empty line. He carried it like proof of what he had lost. But the line had never asked to remain empty. The guitar had never asked to remain inside the case. And Samuel had never asked Henry to stop playing. Those decisions belonged to Henry, which meant Henry could make new decisions too. He could open the case, replace the strings, play the wrong chord, try again, write 1 line, sing for 14 strangers, then play again tomorrow. Cities can teach us strange lessons, sometimes through buildings, sometimes through rivers, sometimes through people we meet for only 5 minutes. Nashville taught Henry that finishing something did not erase the person who helped begin it. It honored the beginning. Ellie learned something too. She learned that adults sometimes carry questions longer than children. Children ask why. Adults often learn to stop asking. But one good question can open an old door. Why did you stop playing? Henry had answered the question 100 ways inside his mind. Because Samuel died. Because the song was unfinished. Because the guitar hurt to look at. Because life became busy. Because years passed. All true. But beneath every answer was another. I was afraid to begin again. Nashville did not remove the fear. Henry played while afraid. That was the difference. The first chord was not perfect. Neither was the second. The song lived anyway. Chapter 23. One final visit. Many years later, Ellie returned to Nashville. Henry was no longer able to travel. Before Ellie left, he handed her the old guitar case. The faded sticker remained. H&S. Take it, Henry said. Ellie shook her head. It's yours. No. Henry smiled. It was ours. Samuel and me. Then you and me. He touched the case. Maybe it belongs to whoever plays the next note. Ellie carried it to Nashville. She walked Broadway before sunrise. The city was almost quiet. Almost. A delivery truck stopped. A worker swept a doorway. A neon guitar glowed above a closed building. Ellie smiled. She found the place where Walter once sat. The chair was gone. Walter was gone. But the sidewalk remained. Ellie opened the guitar case. She lifted Henry's guitar. Her guitar now. She sat. She played. The first song was The Road Still Knows My Name. At first, nobody listened. Then a little girl stopped. The girl held her father's hand. When Ellie finished, the girl clapped. Ellie smiled. Thank you. Are you famous? The girl asked. Ellie laughed. No. Do you want to be? Ellie thought about Walter. When I was younger, maybe. What happened? Ellie smiled. I got older. The girl frowned. Ellie laughed. Do you play? The girl shook her head. Would you like to? Maybe. Ellie showed her a simple chord. The girl's fingers struggled. The strings buzzed. That sounds bad. Yes. The girl's father laughed. Ellie smiled. Try again. The girl did. Still bad. Again. A little better. Ellie nodded. Mistakes are proof the song is alive. Who said that? Ellie looked toward the river. A musician. Was he famous? Ellie smiled. To me. The girl and her father continued down Broadway. Ellie sat alone. One person had listened. That was not the same as nobody listening. Ellie began another song. Chapter 24. The song the city never forgot. That evening, Ellie stood beside the Cumberland River. Nashville's skyline glowed. Bridges crossed the water. Music traveled from Broadway. Ellie removed the old photograph from the guitar case. Henry and Samuel, young, hopeful, standing beside the same river. She placed a new photograph beside it. Henry and Ellie, taken years earlier. Henry held the guitar. Ellie held the unfinished lyrics. 2 photographs. 2 generations. 1 song. Ellie opened her notebook. She wrote, We do not keep memories alive by refusing to move. We keep them alive by carrying the best parts forward. She looked toward the river. Good line, she whispered. There was no answer. Ellie smiled. Samuel probably thinks it's too serious. She imagined Henry saying it. Constipated musician. Ellie laughed. A man walking nearby looked at her strangely. She did not care. She opened the guitar case. She played. The road still knows my name. People stopped. Not many. Enough. When Ellie reached the final line, she looked toward the city. Still left a road to bring me home someday. The song ended. The river continued. Nashville continued. Because cities do not remember songs the way people do. Buildings cannot hum. Bridges cannot sing. Rivers cannot request one more song. But people can. A person hears a line. They remember it. They repeat it. They teach it. They carry it somewhere new. That is how a city remembers. Through people. Through stories. Through the next note. The song Henry and Samuel started had once lived on a folded piece of paper. Then it lived inside Henry. Then Ellie. Then 14 strangers beside a river. Then 23 people on Broadway. Then a little girl learning her first chord. The song traveled. Maybe that was what Samuel meant when he said rivers were songs. They keep moving, even when nobody is listening. Outro. As the final line appears across the page, Nashville is complete. The skyline stands above the city. The Cumberland River continues its journey. The bridges stretch across the water. The Ryman waits for another performer. Broadway glows. A guitar rests beneath the lights. And somewhere in the city, a musician plays the first note of a song that has never existed before. Nashville is known for music. But perhaps the greatest songs are not always the loudest. Some are played for thousands. Some are played for 11. Some are played for 1. And some wait quietly inside an old guitar case for 35 years. Henry believed the music had stopped, but the song was still there, waiting, not for the perfect musician, not for a giant stage, not for thousands of people. It was simply waiting for someone to play the next note. Maybe there is something in your own life that has been quiet for a long time. An idea, a drawing, a story, a dream, a song. Maybe you stopped because life changed. Maybe you became busy. Maybe you were afraid. Maybe you simply forgot how to begin again. You do not have to finish everything today. Sometimes all you need is the next note, the next word, the next line, the next step. Because a mistake does not end the song if you keep playing. Silence is not the only way to remember someone, and neglected is not always the same as ruined. One line at a time, Nashville has come to life. One note at a time, an old song found its way home. Every city has a story. Thank you for letting us draw this one together. If you enjoyed watching Nashville come to life one line at a time, please like the video, subscribe to AI Draws the World, and leave a comment telling us which city we should draw next. Until the next city, keep creating, keep exploring, and if the music ever stops, remember, the song may simply be waiting for you to play the next note. Thank you for watching AI Draws the World. We'll see you in the next drawing. The end. As the final line appears across the page, Nashville is complete. The skyline stands tall. The river keeps moving. The lights keep glowing. And somewhere in the city, another song is just beginning. Every city has a story. Thank you for letting us draw this one together. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment with the next city you want to see. Until the next city, keep creating, keep exploring, and we'll see you in the next drawing.